Hello there, Silver Voices and supporters. It's Dennis Reed here again, the director of Silver Voices. This short video is about the Labour government's plans on social care, if I can dignify those in those terms. Last week, Labour announced that they were going to set up an independent commission on social care, with its interim findings due out in 2026, which will look at the immediate problems facing social care and provide some suggested reforms in the medium term. I think we already know more or less the issues in social care, so that itself is a stretch. But the worst thing is that the final recommendations of this independent inquiry are not due out until 2028, which has led to a lot of controversy. We are, however, the only organisation to have called the Social Care Commission plans a cop-out, and we were featured on the front pages of the press with this in mind, and I'm going to explain why I think that these plans are a cop-out. There's absolutely no need for this commission at all, actually, because since 1997 there have been 3 independent commissions already. There have been 5 white papers and green papers as well, incidentally, and also 14 parliamentary inquiries. So all the possible options for both funding and organising social services, all of them are already out there in the public domain. And what's needed now is a political direction from the government, which has a huge majority, and political decisions. Now, Labour is really using this as a cover for its lack of planning and lack of foresight and lack of ideas, actually, on social care. Throughout its long period in opposition, Labour constantly said they had a plan that they were preparing on social care which would be published soon. It never materialised. In the 2019 manifesto of the Labour Party, they promised free personal care, which is a similar situation that applies in Scotland at the moment, and to a lesser extent in Wales and Northern Ireland. So they promised free personal care at that stage, and they also promised a national care service, which I will come back to. But now they are in government, they appear not to have any such plans at all. They're still referring to a national care service, but they appear to have no particular direction, and they're relying on this independent commission to come up with one. The first thing that Labour actually did was to announce that social care, any real reforms, would be delayed until the next Parliament, and also they ditched their promise to implement the cap on lifetime costs in care. So many people have to, as we know, many people have to, older people in particular, have to sell the family home because they might have been diagnosed with dementia, and they're going to have to fund very expensive dementia residential care. Now, there was a promise that there would be a cap on the amount that somebody would have to spend in their lifetime on that, which came from the Dilnot Commission in 10 years or so ago, in 2011. And the Conservatives had already agreed that this would be implemented this year. That has now been ditched and will obviously depend on the outcome of this inquiry, whenever that is. The National Care Service is an interesting term. When it was first announced, I think most people assumed that it was going to be something similar to the National Health Service. And why call it a National Care Service unless it is something similar to the National Health Service? But it's never been properly defined, and it appears that all it is now is a title and nothing else. And again, the Independent Commission is supposed to come up to define what a national care service is, without any political direction at all, which is absolutely ridiculous. The only things that have been said would seem to indicate that Labour is now thinking that all the National Care Service is is a set of minimum standards which will have to apply across the country, which seems to me to be a rather ridiculous situation to be in, that you define a brand new body, national body, with all the priorities that that has, and then you just basically set national minimum standards that people will have to abide by. And of course, local authorities are the ones who actually provide social care, and they're strapped for cash as it is at the moment. So how they're supposed to meet minimum standards, I really don't know. What we think this commission is about is deliberate delay. The plans are that there won't be a final report until 2028. That is a year before the next general election is due. Nobody's going to be introducing major controversial legislation in 2028-29. So in fact what we will see is a whole parliament go by without, with a huge majority for Labour, without any new plans really to reform social care. And that has a huge effect on older people. There are already 2.6 million older people who are not receiving the social care support they need. There are huge waiting lists in local authorities even to get assessed for social care. Hospitals, 1 in 8 hospital beds are so-called blocked because older people are ready to go home. They don't need to be in the hospital bed, but they don't have social care support at home. And those blockages in hospitals rebound everywhere. So they rebound on accident and emergency departments, they rebound on ambulance services, and so on. And I'm afraid Wes Streeting is whistling in the wind if he thinks that NHS waiting lists are going to come down without resolving social care. He really is, because many of the blockages in the service and the stresses and strains on the hospital services are down to the lack of social care. Now, lives are being lost here. NHS is under great stress, and yet apparently there is such a leisurely timetable of 2028 for this talking shop to come up with some proposals. Now that is really not on. Now that's why, in a nutshell, we have called this a cop-out. We think that the government needs to take these plans back and to come up with a proper timetable. Andrew Dilnot himself, who I mentioned ran the last independent commission, has said there is no reason why there can't be firm proposals by the end of this year, and I agree with him. With that in mind, I don't think that any charities or the other political parties should be taking part in this farce until that timetable is resolved. Otherwise they will be complicit with delay. So we would urge a boycott of these plans until such time as Labour come up with some proposals which treat social care and the social care crisis seriously. So that's why we call these plans a cop-out. We stick with that, and we urge all the other organisations active in this field to take a similar position. Anyway, that's it for now. We'll be back soon with further commentary on issues which matter to older people. Until then, keep well and keep safe.